Hello there folks, and welcome back to another video. In this one I made you a promise, I suppose. I said that I was going to be doing a new army based project, and so I thought I would dive in and kind of give you an idea of sort of what I'm focusing on, what I'm aiming to do over the next couple of months, 3 months or so, and sort of how it's all going to come together. So I put together a poll in the community part of the channel and asked you folks what I should work on, and the idea was either going to be going for a Dark Oath force for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, or, as you can see as represented here, going for a Hobbit based army represented by young Thorin, Balin and Dwalin, as well as Thror and Thrain, so that they could be slotted into possibly my first Hobbit-based force, as I've not done one of these before. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I thought I'd walk you through the initial thinking and stuff behind this, and go from there, really. So to kick things off, I thought I'd just go through some of the different profiles that are available that I'll be picking from, that will then build the Army of Thror that I'll be using on the tabletop, and talk about the points and all that kind of thing as well. So, going through some of the characters, we have Thror, King of the Mountain, who comes in at a whopping 130. Obviously a fairly hefty stat line, as you can see there as well. Comes with mithril armor, shield, hand weapon, the Arkenstone, and the Ring of Durin. The Arkenstone is a unique piece of war gear. The bearer of the Arkenstone passes fate rolls on a 4+. Additionally, when making a fate roll, if the result is a 4 or better, then the fate point is free and is not spent. He also has the Ring of Durin. These are both passive abilities, by the way. This is a unique piece of war gear once per game during the priority phase. After the roll for priority has taken place, the bearer of the Ring of Durin can re-roll their side's priority roll. So pretty impressive. Comes with the Heroic Challenge and Heroic Strike, Heroic Action options, as well as the option to upgrade members of Thror's warband amongst the Grimhammers into Guardians of the King for an extra point per model, which increases their strength to 4, which is pretty impressive and very good when you're diving into your games. He also has the Ancient Enemies Orc rule, which is helpful for re-rolling wounds and stuff like that. You then have Thrain, son of Thror, who is wearing heavy armor and carries a Master Forged two-handed weapon, gets the actions for Heroic Strength and Heroic Strike. Also has the same rules for the Ring of Durin that we just saw as used by Thror, although of course he only gets access to the Ring of Durin if Thror is not as part of your army composition. He also has Hatred of Gundabad, which is again helpful for re-rolling on wounds, and I think, or it might actually just be a +1 to wound, actually, I think, with Hatred. And then you have Durin's Heir, which is Thrain's Stand Fast, has a range of 12, which essentially means that he can take a courage test to stick around during the battle, and then that can expand out to everyone else within his radius. And this also includes Dwarven heroes, as you can see here. So he's going to be incredibly good at holding the line, especially with a small elite force of models on the tabletop. You then have the meat of essentially the army list that I'll be looking at, starting with young Thorin Oakenshield himself. Carries heavy armor, hand weapon, and the Oakenshield. He gets the rule for the Oakenshield, which is an active ability. This is a unique shield. Additionally, if Thorin elects to shield with the Oakenshield, which is an ability you can do when you're fighting in a duel, and wins the combat, then he may instead get to inflict a single strength 4 hit on the enemy, whereas normally you wouldn't get to strike back. It would be a purely defensive thing. He also has the special rule to arms, where once per game at the start of the action phase, activation, Thorin can declare he is using the special rule. If he does, then until the end of the turn, all friendly Erebor models within 3 inches of Thorin will increase their strength by 1, which is pretty impressive. So he comes in at 110 points, and Thrain is 130, same as Thror. Both incredibly powerful characters there, and we're starting to see some of them here too. You then have his supporting characters. So you have young Balin, who comes in at 60 points, which gives him an armor and a hand and a half weapon. He has the ability Longbeard, which is something that Balin has had in the past as well, which is during the priority phase. After the roll for priority has taken place, Balin can spend a will point to allow the controlling player to re-roll their roll for priority. So a great way for you to kind of mitigate bad luck, especially if you're in a particular moment where you really, really need something to pop off. And then you also have young Dwarlin, as you can see down here. And young Dwarlin, it comes in at 90 points, and he has Grasper and Keeper, which are his 2 weapons alongside his armor. These are a unique set of hand weapons. Additionally, a model gains the bonus of +1 to its attack characteristics when using Grasper and Keeper, and any 2 wound rolls of a natural 6 that are not prevented will do 2 wounds rather than 1. So incredibly brutal on that front. Comes with a good 2 might points, so he's going to be able to dish out a lot of punishment as he goes, which is quite good. He is fearless, which is great for going up against some of the big monsters that you can find out there. And then he has Weapon Master, so he's never considered to be unarmed for whatever reason. And he also has Dwarven Fury, which is quite an interesting one because it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. And this is at the start of a combat involving Dwarlin, roll a d6. On a 5+, Dwarlin may re-roll fail to wound rolls during that combat. On a 2 to 4, nothing happens, the combat proceeds as normal. However, on a 1, Dwarlin reduces his fight value by d3 before the dual roll takes place. So he has a fight value of 6, so it could, at its worst, go down to 3, which would be quite interesting. But if he does win through, he's still going to do a lot of damage regardless. You then have the sort of meat and potatoes of your army, as it were. So we have the Erebor Dwarf Captain, as you can see there, which is your standard basic captain for you to use as part of your force if you want something of a lower points cost to be added into the mix. And then you have the Erebor Dwarf Warriors, which are sort of built in as part of that. So this is, I should say, these folks are all fine cast resin miniatures, these ones here. Same goes for the Erebor Dwarf Captain and the Grimhammer Captain that we're going to be looking at. And then these are 2 plastic kits. So we have the Erebor Dwarf Captain here. Uses the Mountain Dweller special rule, which allows him to traverse rough terrain as if it is absolutely normal. And then you have the Erebor Dwarf Warriors, who are coming in with a pretty standard defense of 6, which is classic for pretty much all Erebor Dwarves, or Dwarves in general. And they come with various options. They come with heavy armor and hand weapons, which are obviously built into their stats regardless. And then you have the option to apply a spear and shield, a shield, or just a spear. The kit comes with a variety of different options for you to do all of that. You then have on the other side the Grimhammer Captain. So he comes in at 80 points. He has the weapon for the Mattock, which is then transferred into the Grimhammer Warriors as well anyway. This is a 2-handed weapon. Additionally, if a model wielding a Mattock wins a dual roll, they may choose to try and knock down an enemy model instead of making strikes. If they do, choose a single enemy model involved in the combat. This model and the chosen model both roll a d6 and add their strength characteristics. If this model rolls equal to or higher than the chosen model, then the chosen model is immediately knocked prone. This may be done before any other friendly models make their strikes. So the captain or another one of the warriors knocks one of them down, and then the others hit them on the ground whilst they are trapped there, which is pretty impressive and incredibly good. So that is the kind of options that you've got to choose from when it comes to making an Army of Thror. And when I say Army of Thror, that is because I will be using a particular list from the back of the book. So we'll go and find that now, which is this one here, the Army of Thror. Who would have thought it? So this is representing the battle that is fought in the flashback scene that you will remember from The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. I have never been able to say this properly. Azan Ulbizar. There we go. I think that's right. Someone can correct me in the comments if there's a better pronunciation of that, but there we go. So this kind of gives you a breakdown of how you will build your force. So the hero of legend option in this force is Thror himself. You also then have a bunch of heroes of valor, which are Thrain, young Thorin, young Balin, and the young Dwalin, as well as the standard dwarf kings. You then have the heroes of fortitude, which are your dwarf captain for your Erebor warriors, and the same for your Grimhammers. And then you also have the sets of various warriors there, with the Grimhammer warriors coming in at 11, and then the regular warriors coming in at 9, plus whatever you decide to arm them with. You then have a series of special rules. So this is a pretty simple one when it comes to the themed army lists in the game. You have Thror ruled with utter surety, never doubting his house would endure. Friendly Erebor models treat Thror as a banner with a range of 6, which is quite impressive, so it gives you some reroll potential there. And then you have the Erebor Treasure Hoard. So friendly Erebor models get a bonus of +1 to wound when making strikes against an enemy model that is in possession of an objective marker. Additionally, friendly Erebor models that are within their deployment zone may re-roll to wound rolls of a natural 1 when making strikes. So again, another nice little bit of sort of mitigation when it comes to this particular army, which I think is quite nice. I should point out, as I was alluding to there is also the addition of the classic Dwarven Kings, which we'll go and find right now, as I believe they're at the end of this section somewhere. There they are. So we have Dwarven Kings as well, if I wanted to go down that route and introduce some random generic Dwarven Lords into the equation. They have the Dwarven Lord's passive ability. So a Dwarven Lord will always have the faction keyword of the most common type of dwarf model in the same army. So if the majority of our friendly dwarf models have Erebor, then they also get the same. If they have the Erebor keyword, then they gain the Ancient Enemies Orc special rule. If they have Iron Hills, they gain Fearless. And if they have Khazad-dûm, they gain Throwing Weapons. Although in this case, all of this will be Erebor, so that's where they'll be tied to if I decide to bring them into the game. But going back to the army list, I have had some thoughts as to how I'm going to build stuff. So I have 2 army lists in mind. I'm not entirely sure of the breakdown of the actual troops within said army lists, but I'll go into the points in a little bit more detail when I come to the next update on this, once I've got some models painted and I've had a little bit more of a think. But I have a 600 point list that I'm working towards, and I also, by extension, have a 1,000 point list that I'm working towards. And so, for the first month, I thought I would pick up the characters because they're an integral part of the army, and that would be a great thing for me to be working on over the next couple of weeks, next 4 weeks or so, bringing them to life on the tabletop. So, I picked up recently young Thorin, Balin, and Dwalin, as you can see there. Now, obviously come with their bases in the pack there, but then we have the fine cast models themselves, which haven't actually turned out too badly. So we have Thorin there with his sword and the oaken shield at the ready, which is quite nice. We have Balin with his double hand weapon, this weapon in 2 hands, sorry. Again, looking quite nice, so it should be nice and easy to build onto a base. And then we have Dwalin with his 2 weapons, Grasper and Keeper. Again, looking pretty cool, and fairly nice details on the model, I think, as well. So nothing to worry about on that front. And then we have the second of the sets. So this is the one with Thror and Thrain inside of it, which comes with the 2 mega characters for this particular army. We have Thrain first, who comes with his big hammer, his cloak, and again, details not too bad on this fine cast model. Not too much to clear up, I don't think. So should be fairly good on that front. But then we have the model that has been a little bit of a sticky wicket for me. So we have Thror here, who again comes in only 3 parts, so it's not too bad really. But the real issue for me at the moment is this sword, which, as you can see there, is bent at a rather horrible angle. So he is going to go into some warm water, hot water, and I'm going to try and very carefully bend that back into shape before I put it on the model. Otherwise, I'm going to be having to find a new blade to give him, which is one of the annoying features of Finecast, but there we go. There are no such options for me to deal with beyond what I've got here, so those are my characters that I've got in mind. So essentially what I've been looking at is there's an 1,000 point army that will make use of Thror and Thrain, and they'll be big linchpins of that force with a lot of grim hammers, backed up by a lot of the Warriors of Erebor. The smaller army ditches Thror and Thrain, but instead, I should say, the larger army has Thror and Thrain, and then it has the other characters in it, but then a smaller number of, essentially, figures, really. But it does have everyone in it. The 600 point force drops Thror and Thrain, and instead uses Thorin, Balin, and Dwalin as the key characters that lead the way, backed up again by a bunch of Grim Hammers and the Warriors of Erebor. So it's a very, very simple list in the grand scheme of things. It should mean that it's also fairly easy to build it up and get it done. So my thought is to kind of break it down into 3 parts, essentially. What I might try and do is in the first part, I will do all the characters. So I'm going to start off with painting these 3 characters and get them ready. Alongside Thror and Thrain, as you can see here. So I should be able to come back at the end of the next part, which should be sort of the end of August, where I'll have painted all of them up, and I've got some ideas for basing and all that kind of stuff. Got to be very careful of that sword. So that'll be them ready to go. And then in the next month, following that, I will look at the Warriors of Erebor, and then finally I will cap things off with the Grim Hammers. and sort of give you an idea of like how the process has gone over the course of that anyway. When it comes to basing, I do have some ideas. I am thinking that I'm going to probably go something a little bit akin to what I did for my Khazad-dûm force, which was this kind of broken mountainside look, which involved some sort of cork rocks built onto astrogranite. And then what I will do is I'm going to start to add a few more little bits of vegetation into the mix as well, just because I think it will liven it up a little bit and sort of make it stand apart from my Khazad-dûm force. But that's the idea at the moment. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you like the idea of there being like the characters done, then moving on to the Warriors of Erebor and the Grimhammers? What kind of combination of stuff should I be looking at? How many people should I be putting into different warbands? I haven't necessarily played this edition of the game quite a lot, so it'd be good to dive in and kind of get people's thoughts on this new edition. Should you pack out one warband entirely? Should I be spreading things out amongst things a lot more? Should I have a lot more Grimhammers? Should I have a lot more Warriors of Erebor? Give me your thoughts on it and tell me what you think. But yeah, I'm very excited. I'm always a big fan of dwarves. And so to dive in and do an Army of Thror for the Hobbit is a really cool idea, I think. And I'm glad that you folks pushed me in this direction. So yes, like, share, subscribe, do all of that good stuff. Get into a conversation with me down below. And yeah, prepare essentially for 3 months of me building dwarves. Not all the time, but me building and painting dwarves. Maybe coming back with a few updates here and there along the way. And yeah. I'd really like to hear what people say and how I should start looking at building the warband. I found some resources online, which are great for building armies, especially in the new edition. So quickly getting your head around that is always helpful. I might talk about that in a little bit further down the line. But yes, that's the Army of Thror. I have some fine cast to worry about now. But the idea is I will have at least a 600 point, if not an 1,000 point set of the Army of Thror by the end of 3 or so months, and I'll be ready to unleash it on the tabletop. I will hint that I have been looking at doing an evil force as well. I quite like the idea of doing the Army of Gundabad because it would match quite nicely, but I don't like the thought of how much this is going to cost. So maybe that will happen, maybe it won't, we'll have to wait and see. But yes, that is my thinking for the moment. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, as I said, do all of that good stuff. We'll start a conversation, and I'll talk to you folks very, very soon. Bye for now.